Welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into mindset today. That's Mindset, the new psychology of success by Carol Dweck.
A book you've been wanting to get to.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny, this whole fixed versus growth mindset thing,
Yeah.
You hear it everywhere. Like, is it really that groundbreaking?
It really is. Dweck goes way beyond just like the power of positive thinking. And she really digs into the research on how these mindsets affect us, like why some people they crumble under pressure, while others, they seem to thrive on challenges.
So are those basically the two mindsets, like
Yeah.
fixed is the crumbling and growth is the thriving?
Yeah, pretty much. A fixed mindset is believing that your abilities are like set in stone. So intelligence, talent, all that, it's fixed.
Okay.
And then a growth mindset, it's the belief that you can always develop your abilities.
Okay, so help me out here. Give me an example of what living with a fixed mindset would look like.
Okay, so imagine you're...
I'm a person with a fixed mindset.
Yes, exactly.
I'm fixed.
You hit a roadblock at work. You're trying to, I don't know, learn a new software or something.
No, I'm terrible with computers.
And you immediately think, see, I knew it. I'm just not a tech person.
Yep, sounds about right.
You give up easily because you believe that your ability in that area is, well, it's just limited.
So then a growth mindset person, they would hit the same roadblock, but they'd think, what?
You think, okay, this is tough,
Yeah.
but I can figure it out. Maybe I need to take a class or watch some tutorials or ask for help.
So it's not about whether you're good at something right now, but whether you believe you can get good at it.
Exactly. Dweck uses this really helpful analogy of mountain climbing.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Two hikers come to a steep section. The one with the fixed mindset, they look up and think, nope, not a climber, not for me. They turn around.
Makes sense, right? Why risk failing if you already know you're not cut out for it?
But the growth mindset hiker, they see that same challenge and they're like, all right, this is going to be tough, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Got to find a new foothold, maybe adjust my gear.
So even the struggle becomes part of the process, almost like a good thing.
Right, because struggling means you're pushing yourself, you're learning.
Okay, but how do we know this isn't just wishful thinking? Does Dweck have any actual evidence that this stuff matters?
Tons of evidence. She's done some fascinating research. One study that always stands out is the one where she praised different groups of students for either their intelligence or their effort.
Oh yeah, tell me about that one. I think that's the one that really got people's attention.
Yeah, so they gave kids some puzzles to solve, and then afterwards, some were praised for being smart.
Oh, you're so brilliant.
Exactly. While others were praised for their effort. Wow, you really worked hard on that.
And what happened?
The kids who were praised for effort, they were way more likely to choose harder puzzles next time. They wanted to keep learning.
That's the smart kids.
They actually started avoiding challenges. They didn't want to risk looking dumb.
So even just the way we praise kids can affect their mindsets.
It can have a huge impact. Because if you're constantly being told you're smart, you start to think that your intelligence is your most valuable asset. And you don't want to do anything that might jeopardize that.
So it's almost like they become afraid of making mistakes.
Exactly. Mistakes feel like a threat to their identity.
Because if you're smart, you shouldn't make mistakes, right?
Right. Which is so counterproductive because we learn the most from our mistakes.
This is making me think about how much of this fixed mindset stuff is about ego, how we want others to see us.
That's a great point. It's not just about internal beliefs. It's about how we present ourselves to the world.
Right. I bet a lot of people with fixed mindsets are also super competitive. They need to be the best, the smartest, the most talented in order to feel good about themselves.
Absolutely. A fixed mindset makes you constantly feel like you're being judged. And that can be exhausting.
And it probably keeps people from trying new things, right?
Yeah. If you're afraid of failing, you're going to stick to what you know you're good at.
Which means you're never going to discover hidden talents or push yourself beyond your comfort zone. It's kind of a trap, isn't it?
It really is. And it's not just limited to school or work either. Dweck talks about how these mindsets show up in sports, in business, even in relationships.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely see that. An athlete with a fixed mindset might give up easily after a loss.
Right, because they see it as a reflection of their talent, their worth as an athlete, instead of as a learning opportunity.
Exactly. It's oh, I lost, I must not be good. End of story.
Whereas someone with a growth mindset might analyze that loss, figure out what they could do better next time.
So it's not about avoiding failure. It's about how you respond to it.
Exactly. And this reminds me of Dweck's example of John McEnroe.
Oh, the tennis player, famous for his temper tantrums.
Yeah, he was incredibly talented. But he had such a fixed mindset, he could never take responsibility for his own performance, always blaming the refs, the court conditions, anything but himself.
So he never really learned from his losses, even though he was losing to some of the best players in the world.
Right. He was so focused on protecting his ego, he missed out on valuable opportunities to grow.
It's kind of sad, actually. Like, imagine how much better he could have been if he'd had a growth mindset.
It makes you wonder. But then you have someone like Michael Jordan.
Ah, yeah, the ultimate growth mindset example, right?
Didn't even make his high school varsity team at first.
Which is wild to think about.
But instead of concluding he wasn't good enough, he just doubled down on his training. He used that setback as fuel.
I guess that's the difference, right? Do you see a setback as a sign that you should quit or as a challenge to overcome?
That's the fundamental question. It all boils down to how we interpret those tough moments.
Yeah.
Are they proof of our limitations?
Or are they opportunities for growth? Makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. Before we go any further, I think it's important to say that nobody is 100% fixed or 100% growth all the time. We all have a mix of both mindsets.
That's good to hear, because honestly, I was starting to get a little worried about my own fixed mindset tendencies.
It's not about labeling yourself. It's more about being aware of which mindset is driving your behavior in certain situations.
Yeah.
And knowing that, well, you can always shift towards a more growth-oriented approach.
Okay, good. Because I'm definitely ready to embrace some growth. But before we get into how to do that,
Yeah.
I think we need to spend a little more time really understanding the downsides of a fixed mindset. Like, what are the real-world consequences of staying stuck in that way of thinking?
That's a great point. We'll dive into that right after the break.
Stay tuned.
Okay, so let's dive into those downsides. Like we were saying, a fixed mindset can really hold you back in life.
Yeah, no kidding. After that John McEnroe example, I'm definitely feeling motivated to embrace growth.
Good, because honestly, the consequences of staying stuck in a fixed mindset, well, they can be pretty significant.
Like what? Give me the worst case scenario.
Well, for one thing, you miss out on a lot of opportunities. If you're constantly afraid of failing,
Great.
you're less likely to take risks, try new things.
Which means you're basically playing it safe all the time.
Exactly. You might avoid some embarrassing moments, sure.
But you're also limiting your potential.
Big time. Think about your career, your relationships.
Even just like personal growth, right? Learning new things, expanding your horizons.
All of that. A fixed mindset keeps you stuck in a very small box.
Okay, so missed opportunities. That's a big one. What else?
A fixed mindset also makes you super sensitive to criticism. Any negative feedback.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
It feels like a personal attack.
Because if your abilities are fixed, any criticism is basically saying you're not good enough, period.
Right. And that makes it really hard to learn and improve.
Because instead of seeing feedback as helpful information, you just get defensive.
You shut down completely. And that could damage your relationships too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you're always feeling judged or threatened.
It's hard to be open and vulnerable with people.
Exactly, which means you can't build truly genuine connections.
Plus, doesn't it create this, vicious cycle? The more you avoid challenges and criticism,
The less you learn and grow.
which just reinforces that fixed mindset.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. See, I knew I wasn't good at this.
Okay, that's pretty depressing. But I'm guessing there's a way to break out of this cycle.
There is. And that's where the good news comes in. By consciously cultivating a growth mindset,
We can escape the fixed mindset trap.
you can open yourself up to a world of possibilities.
Okay, I'm ready. How do we do it? Give me the steps.
All right, step one, awareness.
Yeah.
You got to recognize when that fixed mindset is taking over.
Okay, so pay attention to my thoughts, especially when things get tough.
Exactly. Notice those little voices in your head, like when you're struggling with something and you think, oh, I'm terrible at this.
Oh, I know those voices well.
Right. Those are classic fixed mindset phrases.
So how do I shut them down?
Try this. Add the word yet to the end of the sentence.
So instead of I'm terrible at this, it becomes I'm terrible at this yet. I like that. It feels less like a dead end and more like, I don't know, a challenge.
It is a challenge. That yet acknowledges that you're on a learning journey. You're not there yet, but you can get there.
Okay, so catch those negative thoughts and add yet. What else can I do?
Reframing. Instead of seeing challenges as threats, try to view them as opportunities for growth.
Oh, I've heard that one before. But it's easier said than done, right? Like, how do I actually reframe my thinking in the moment?
It takes practice. But let's say you're, I don't know, struggling to learn a new software program at work.
Been there.
Instead of thinking, ugh, I'm never going to get this.
Which is my usual thought process, yes.
Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What skills am I developing that might be useful later on?
So shift the focus from the frustration to the potential benefits. Kind of like find the silver lining.
Exactly. Maybe that silver lining is a new skill that will make you more valuable to your company.
True. Or maybe it's just the satisfaction of knowing you pushed through a tough challenge and came out the other side.
And that feeling of accomplishment, that builds your confidence for the next challenge.
Okay, so I'm catching negative thoughts, adding yet, and reframing challenges. What else?
This one's big. Focus on effort over innate talent.
Oh, you mean like stop worrying about whether I'm naturally gifted at something?
Yes, we live in a culture that's obsessed with talent, but the truth is, consistent effort is what drives real success.
Think about Michael Jordan again. He wasn't born a basketball superstar. He worked his butt off to become one.
Exactly. And I know it can be discouraging when you feel like you're just not good at something.
Yeah, that feeling definitely pops up for me sometimes.
But Dweck would say that those feelings are often the result of a fixed mindset. You might surprise yourself if you just put in the effort and approach learning with a sense of curiosity.
Okay, so I'm working on my self-talk, I'm reframing challenges, and I'm focusing on effort. Anything else I can do to really solidify this growth mindset?
One more big one, embrace feedback,
Even when it's not positive.
especially when it's not positive. But this one can be really tough for people with fixed mindsets.
Because it feels like a judgment on their worth as a person.
Exactly. But with a growth mindset, you can see feedback as valuable information. It's not about who you are, it's about what you can do better.
So instead of getting defensive, I should try to see it as an opportunity to learn and grow.
Yes. And don't just wait for feedback to come to you. Seek it out from people you trust. Mentors, colleagues, friends.
So like ask them for specific advice on how I can improve.
Exactly. It shows that you're committed to growth.
Makes sense. What about role models? Do they play a role in all of this?
Absolutely. Surround yourself with people who embody a growth mindset. Pay attention to how they approach challenges, handle setbacks, embrace feedback.
You mean people who actually walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Exactly. It's inspiring to see those principles in action.
It's like having living proof that a growth mindset is possible and that it leads to amazing things.
And it doesn't have to be famous people either. It could be friends, family members, colleagues.
Oh, for sure. I have a friend who's constantly learning new things, picking up new hobbies, never says, I'm not good at that. She just dives in and figures it out.
Perfect example. That's the kind of energy you want to surround yourself with.
It's contagious, you know? Her growth mindset makes me want to be more growth-minded, too.
That's the power of role models.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it all comes down to action.
So it's not enough to just think about a growth mindset. I actually have to, do things differently.
You got it. What's one area of your life where you've been holding yourself back because of a fixed mindset?
Well, I've always wanted to learn to play guitar, but I always tell myself I'm not musical.
There's that fixed mindset talking again. What if, instead of letting that thought control you, you took action?
Like, sign up for a guitar class.
Exactly. You might not become the next Jimi Hendrix,
Probably not.
but you'll learn so much more than just guitar skills. You'll be strengthening your growth mindset muscles.
And that's a benefit that will ripple out into all areas of my life, right?
Exactly. So what do you say? Ready to give it a shot?
You know what? I am. I'm signing up for that class tonight.
That's the spirit. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive into mindset, I think we need to talk about how this all applies to relationships.
Ooh, yes. I've been waiting for this part.
Oh.
Because I have a feeling that's where things get really interesting. Ready to dive into that?
Absolutely. All right, so relationships. This is where mindset can really make or break things, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, think about it. Relationships are all about navigating differences and working through conflicts, you know?
In growing together.
Exactly. So much potential for growth, but also a lot of room for those fixed mindset patterns to show up.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so let's start with the not so pretty side first.
Yeah.
What does a fixed mindset look like when it comes to relationships?
Imagine a couple. They're having an argument. And if they both have that fixed mindset,
Uh-oh.
they might start to see that disagreement as proof that they're just not compatible.
Ouch. So instead of seeing it as just a bump in the road,
Yeah.
they see it as a sign that the whole relationship is doomed.
Yeah. They start thinking, we're just too different, or we'll never see eye to eye on anything.
And that can lead to resentment, right? Like if you believe your partner's flaws are fixed, you're not going to be very forgiving.
Exactly. There's less room for compromise,
Yeah.
less compassion,
Yeah.
because you're basically saying, this is who you are, take it or leave it.
So every little conflict becomes a potential deal breaker.
It can feel that way.
Yeah.
And because they're so focused on their partner's shortcomings,
Right.
they miss out on the good stuff, you know, their strengths, the things they love about each other.
It's like they're looking for reasons to break up instead of reasons to stay together.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, that's a pretty bleak picture.
Yeah.
So how does a growth mindset change things?
Well, with a growth mindset, you understand that conflict is normal.
It's going to happen in any relationship.
Exactly. It's not a sign that something is fundamentally wrong. It's just, it's just something to work through.
So instead of freaking out and like running for the hills, you stay calm, you try to find a solution together.
Exactly. You see those challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, both individually and as a couple.
Okay, that makes sense. So instead of feeling threatened by disagreements, you're actually using them to strengthen the relationship?
Exactly. And because you believe that people can change, you approach those conflicts with more curiosity and empathy.
It's like instead of saying, you always do this, it's more like, help me understand why you're doing this.
Yes. It's about understanding your partner's perspective, even if you don't agree with it.
Okay, I'm sold. A growth mindset in relationships. It sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work in practice? Like, give me some real-life examples.
Okay, so let's say a couple is having communication problems. One partner feels like they're not being heard. The other one feels constantly criticized. With a fixed mindset, they might just keep blaming each other, getting defensive.
Going in circles.
Right. But with a growth mindset, they might start by acknowledging their own role in the communication breakdown. It's like, okay, maybe I haven't been the best listener lately. I need to work on that.
So they're taking responsibility for their own actions.
Right. And they might even, look for resources to improve their communication skills, like a workshop or a book on active listening.
So they're actively investing in the growth of the relationship, not just hoping things will magically get better on their own.
Exactly. And this can apply to all sorts of challenges. Money problems, disagreements about parenting.
This is making me think that this isn't just about romantic relationships, right? This growth mindset stuff, it can apply to families, friendships, even work relationships.
Absolutely. Any relationship where there's potential for conflict and growth.
Like imagine a parent struggling to connect with their teenage kid. A fixed mindset might make them think, my kid is just rebellious and difficult. There's nothing I can do. But a growth mindset parent might think, okay, what can I do differently? How can I create a more open and supportive environment?
Exactly. It's about constantly looking for ways to grow and evolve within the relationship rather than just getting stuck in those same old patterns.
Wow, this is really powerful stuff. It's like a whole new way of looking at relationships.
It is. It all comes back to that belief that people can change. And when you embrace that belief, it opens up so many possibilities for connection and growth.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Carol Dweck's mindset, what's the one thing you really hope our listener will take away from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that a growth mindset is not just about achieving success, it's about creating a better world, a world where we're more compassionate, more understanding, and more open to growth. And that starts with our relationships, one interaction at a time.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners out there who are ready to embrace this growth mindset journey, remember, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. There will be bumps along the way. But with effort, with awareness, you can really transform the way you connect with the people in your life. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.